as the Chief of Staff to the Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Commerce Department, as well as the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs for the Secretary of the U.S. Commerce Department. Additionally, Aaron has nearly a decade of experience working in the Missouri legislature in both the House and the Senate, including as Chief of Staff to 2 speakers of the House. What he enjoys most about public service is problem-solving difficult issues and finding meaningful long-term solutions. So he fits in very, very well with this group. Aaron lives in Columbia with his wife and 2 daughters, and I am going to step away, but I'm also going to queue up. I'm going to stop sharing my desktop so that it will just be the camera. And then you will have, there you go.
All right, great. Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate the introduction. And first, let me say just thank you for everybody that's here today. I know this is kind of the first annual summit that we're doing, so this is a number of firsts today that we're going to be kicking off. And I know that there was a lot of work that went into it. So absolutely just want to reiterate kind of what Jessica had said. Thanks to everyone for all the work that goes into this, because there are as we've learned, especially through a lot of the resiliency planning and everything, many hands make light work. And so for things like this to go smoothly, it takes a lot of people to really be working together to make sure that, that it can all come together. So when I was asked to speak today, obviously we have no idea what the weather forecast or anything like that are going to be, but I find it completely fitting that obviously here in the state of Missouri we're having this kicking off today. And lo and behold, we're at the same time watching what our river gauges are, and we're looking at the impacts of some flooding around the state. And so I know probably for a lot of those that are also in our Midwest partners are probably experiencing some of the similar things today as well. And for those of you who aren't, I assure you, just as we've learned with any of this, you never know what's going to come tomorrow. So we're always trying to work through it. As when Jessica had reached out and said, hey, we'd really like you to come and kind of speak, and I was really wondering at first if I could identify maybe a single episode. Really, I wanted to think back and find one maybe challenge and really articulate that. But as I really, thought through it, especially in our state, it feels like it was just incredibly hard to do. I mean, we started off, I know when we first came into office, and there was actually a drought. We were facing the middle of a drought, and I know that there was a lot of concern about that. We also had flooding, and we've had repetitive flooding, and I know that there's going to be some other panels that are going to talk about how we've kind of dealt with that. We've had tornadoes. We've definitely had that. We've had some tragic incidents that have happened down in Branson, with multiple casualties down there. And then obviously, forefront of everybody's mind, we've had the pandemic. And even for us during the pandemic, instantly it was dealing with the public health challenges. We were also looking at how do we adjust and maneuver around global supply chain issues. And so here in the state, I know a lot of the teams here at SEMA were obviously working through, and how do we procure, these vital pieces of equipment, PPE, things like that everybody really needed, so that we could address kind of the challenges that we were facing. We also, at our state, looked at setting up a partnership with the Google Marketplace, really trying to think outside the box and how could we do that. We looked at the testing challenge in the building I'm sitting in, SEMA, right now. At one point in time, the governor had come over here with a large group and said, listen, we really have to tackle this. We have to get our arms wrapped around how we're going to solve this testing, because we think that's going to be one of the 4 key pillars to our recovery plan. And so, again and again, I kept thinking about which one of these do I want to focus on. And really, it's hard to just focus on the one, because I actually feel like that one, again, there's been so many people that have been involved. There's been so much good work. And I feel like, honestly, there's been so many successes that I was actually a little bit worried about focusing on just one and leaving somebody out, or not including, a contribution that I thought was just incredibly vital to the overall success that we were able to have. And so, what I really kind of settled on was thinking about some broader characteristics and some things like that when we think about resiliency, what is that means to us? And I'm sure everybody kind of thinks of things differently. And I know it kind of worked out well that one of the slides that I think Jessica showed was a word cloud. And it had a number of things on it about, well, these are all the different things maybe that people think of in resiliency. And I think I view that much the same as probably a lot of you do. There's different images and things like that come to mind about how you become resilient, how you plan around being resilient. And so I think what I wanted to really kind of share with the group in my time today was some of those themes that I think actually stretch across, you know, a lot of the different work that everyone does. Because, you know, as we've also seen through this, it does take so many different levels of effort. There's so many different ways that we can respond, and they're meaningful. And I think that that's the other important thing, is there's not just one solution that really makes the impact. There's multiple solutions. There's multiple different things that we have to do every day to really serve, you know, the people of Missouri in our case. And I know that that's always something that's very, very important to us about how we can do it. We're always striving to do better. And so that's what I wanted to be able to kind of share a little bit today was how, you know, we really think about, or how I think about at least some of the characteristics that go into resiliency planning. But I also know that, you know, for me in particular, sometimes when you're in this space, it's hard to describe exactly what it is that you do. I know people often ask and they say, oh, wow, you know, there's a great job title, or it sounds impressive, but what is it you really do? And to be honest, it's really difficult to kind of explain. And I know when you're in the heat of the battle sometimes, and we're really working on, you know, we're fighting through kind of one of these challenges, and somebody says, oh, how's your day at work? And you know, you even think about how to explain it to them, and it's so hard because of all the things you've done and the people that you've worked with. And so I think, again, it's important that I felt like as you guys are thinking about the different breakout sessions today and all the work that's going to go into it, and talk about those successes and really share the ideas, I felt like that there was maybe some value in trying to pull it all together with a few themes, but then at the same time, you know, kind of dovetailing it back in with how we plan for the future. And so the first kind of theme, the first kind of anecdote, or the outline imagery I guess I want to present to everyone, is the idea of sitting around a table with, you know, your colleagues, and you're presented a box. And inside the box, you open it, and you can tell that there's a huge number of puzzle pieces. And as you dump the box out, you realize there's no picture. It's a completely white box, and all you have are these intricate pieces. Now, you're told and you know that ultimately you do have the ability to put the puzzle together, and you have at your disposal all of the teammates sitting around the table. And I feel like a lot of times that's very indicative of these challenges that we're faced with in disaster recovery. We know a lot of times going in that we have some pieces. We don't necessarily know where these pieces fit, and we don't always perhaps know where we're headed. But we know that we can get it done. And so I think that for me, that puzzle is something that is always kind of an image that I think of as something hits, and that, you know, I believe that we've got the pieces that are there. I don't quite know what the puzzle picture is going to look like. But as we start working on this puzzle and this kind of anecdote, you start realizing that as everybody else, you know, they focus on a little section here or there, and there's actually no edges to this puzzle. You know, it's something that's really kind of an organic type shape. But when it kind of comes into fruition, it ends up being a green arrow facing forward. And for me, that's always kind of something that I identify with as well, is that's the only direction. That's really kind of the only option I feel like that we are faced with, that we have to move forward. In order to be successful, we have to be able to go and find, you know, the optimism. We have to be able to look towards what is going to be next. We have to be able to do that planning on what is going to come forward so that we can be better prepared the next time around. And so the first thing that I would kind of reiterate with everybody, kind of going back to that challenge, you know, of that puzzle piece, that's really with what you know, we're faced with, is we don't exactly know what it is, but we have to understand that we've got the pieces, and we've got a great team, you know, around us, and that it's going to have to be always moving forward towards addressing kind of what the next step in that process is. And I think, to me, the second piece of it is also thinking about what is it that we want to, as we think about the members sitting around the table, it's kind of having the faith, I think the faith in them. And one of the stories that really strikes me is the book of Job. And I don't mean to point this out to try to, you know, pull everybody into an early Sunday or anything like that, but there's a story that I think is really important for me surrounding the book of Job. And just to give the cliff notes, Job is somebody whose life has been very good. He's well-to-do. He's got a lot of things that are really going for him. And then kind of calamity strikes. and things just start going wrong. And Job really starts second-guessing himself, and he really starts to wonder, wait a minute, what have I done? And he's got some friends around him that are trying to advise him and tell him, hey, this is what you should be doing, or this is what you've done, and he gets more and more frustrated. And to me, this is always kind of symbolic of what actually happens kind of when you're in the middle of one of these crises, when you're in the middle of a disaster that's occurred. And there is that natural tendency to really start thinking, what have we done? What is going on here? Why is this happening to us? And I think that is just natural a lot of times in human nature. But at the same time, I think it's important to always remember, just like we were kind of talking about with that puzzle piece, and being able to have that team around you and kind of think creatively and outside of the box on how we're going to address these issues, is also the people that are around you. It's your team. And I think that's something that's important as well. It's about having the faith in the team that you work with, having the faith in those that you know are with you kind of in this fight, in this challenge, and rising up to that challenge. And I think that's incredibly important as well. And so I know when we were going through the middle of the pandemic, I'll share a story that one of our other cabinet directors, Ken Zellers, who's over at the Department of Revenue, Ken and I were talking about, some of the things that we were doing on the recovery, even at the Department of Revenue, and how they were going to be involved and what we could be doing to really kind of plan ahead. And at the same time, Ken was having some issues with some family members in his family with the health, and it was on top of the pandemic and everything he's doing at the department. He was having this going on too, and I wanted to check in with Ken and make sure he was doing all right. And he said to me something that has stuck with me since then, and he said, Aaron, the Lord never gives us more than we can handle. And the reason that stuck with me is because we were in the middle of the pandemic, and every day, there was these different things that were getting kind of thrown at us, and you just thought, man, how much more of this is going to happen? How much more of this can we take? And I think the thing that, for me was really kind of thinking through, I can do this. I can do this because I know I've got this great team. I know that we've been faced with these challenges before. We don't know how the pieces fit together, but I know we're gonna really come up with something creative, and we're going to think outside the box, and we're going to be able to do it. And so the second kind of theme I think that I would share is we're thinking about how do we, structure through and create the planning around resiliency, and what do we really try to conceptualize, and what comes next is that faith, the faith in your team, the faith in those that you work with. And I think that it's an important one, because regardless of the challenges that we face, it's going to be one that I think is also going to allow us to kind of pull each other through. And then the final one that I wanted to kind of iterate with everyone and outline actually goes back to a quote of mine that is one of my favorite quotes. It actually happens to be one of the favorite quotes of Governor Parson as well. It's something that has made it into some press conferences of his. It's made it into his State of the State speech, and I feel like that it's something that I really want to share with this group. Maybe some of you have heard it before, but it comes from Teddy Roosevelt. And Teddy Roosevelt, I'm sure some people, for even the limited knowledge maybe you have of the former president, he was kind of a larger-than-life character. There's a lot of pictures of Teddy Roosevelt kind of wearing, hats and being on these extravagant, hunting trips and safaris and things like that, and just a really kind of a charismatic leader. And so I think that a lot of people, though, also don't know that Teddy Roosevelt in his own personal life, when he was a child, he was pretty feeble and he was frail. And it was somebody that his father had kind of at one point approached him and said, hey, look, Teddy, I know you've got the mind for this, but you don't have the body. And so if you're gonna really succeed, you've got to figure out how you're gonna change the body. And so young Teddy said about himself to say, look, I'm going to overcome these obstacles. I'm going to overcome this frailty, and I'm going to be strong, and I'm going to be a fighter. And so I think that he in himself was just kind of a remarkable person. But the quote I wanted to share, I think, really kind of goes towards the persistence that I think it takes a lot of times for those of us, those of you who are working day in, day out in kind of the disaster response and the recovery and resiliency. It's really that mindset and that willingness to just say, look, we're going to have our challenges, we're going to have these setbacks, but we're going to get up and we're going to do it again and again. And I think it's just, again, it's that persistence, it's that willingness. That is a very special mindset that I think is really important. And it is something that is special to, I think, the people that work in this arena, because it is unique, because not everyone is necessarily wired that way. But it just takes those, those of you who are just absolutely, despite the obstacle, despite the potential setback, despite the challenge, they know that they're going to be able to find a solution. They know that they're going to be able to do it with the team that's around them, and they're going to be able to move forward. And so the quote that I wanted to share, it's actually identified as man in the arena. However, it was part of a larger speech that Teddy Roosevelt gave that was titled Citizenship in a Republic. And it was actually him kind of speaking more broadly about the impact of public service and the importance of public service for general citizens. And so the quote reads this: "It is not the critic who counts, not the person who points out how the strong stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends oneself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if they fail, at least fails while daring greatly, so that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." And again, I think that quote is always something that really speaks to me, because it also, points out kind of the humility and the selflessness that a lot of times the work that goes into disaster recovery. These are very tense situations. There are people that have lost their homes, they've lost a great deal, there's high anxiety, there's immense stress. And I think that a lot of times what that means for people is that it's a very difficult situation. It's very hard, in themselves trying to find what their path forward is. And so this is a community that comes together among those who work in disaster recovery and the resiliency planning and recovery, and they're really trying to find that hope. They're really trying to find those solutions and try to find what is it the thing that they can do to help that person get to tomorrow, and then the day after that, and then the week after that, so that they can really get on their feet again. And so I think that, again, as we kick this off today, I'm really proud of the work that a lot of people have done to put into this first annual summit. I think that there's some great panels that we're going to highlight a lot of the individual work that has gone into it. And again, I think that there's going to be these themes that we're going to find probably in every presentation, I feel like, that kind of touches on, these characteristics that I was just talking about. It's the challenge, it's accepting the unknown, and how do we think outside the box to really solve that puzzle. It's having the faith, in the team that you have, and knowing, and even the faith in yourself to say, look, we can get through this. We can find the solution. We know that tomorrow is going to come. And then finally, it's that persistence. And it's just the willingness to just go along with the climb again and again, knowing every step sometimes is more and more difficult. But it's the willingness to do that, because that is a very special trait that I think a lot of people have when they work in disaster recovery. And so I think that we're going to see these themes again and again, as I said, through the different panels today. And I know that I am incredibly proud. I know the governor is incredibly proud of the way that we have faced a lot of these challenges here in the state of Missouri. I know that for those of you who are looking in other states as well, I am assured that I know that you have many examples of things and challenges that you've tackled that you're very proud of, and the way that you've done that too. And so I think that with my final kind of the departing words here, just, again, the appreciation, because it does take all of us kind of working together. And I think that this idea sharing is actually, again, kind of it feeds into, what I was talking about on this. The challenges, we don't know what lies ahead. We don't know what's going to be here tomorrow. Those of you in other places, we don't know either what's going to come up. But I can guarantee you all have really good teams, and you have great people that are working around you, and you've got the faith and the confidence that they're going to be able to work with you to solve those challenges. And I know that the way that you are all wired is such that you're going to see it through. We're going to have these difficult times. We're going to have the difficult days, but everyone is willing to get up again, and they're going to do it again and again and again, because that's where their heart lies. That's the kind of people that you are is really trying to see it through, so that everyone can get some final resolution. And then we just have to be able to again, plan for this in the future. I think it's really important. You know, we're kicking this off today, but I am, you know, believe that as we do go through it today, you know, there's going to be some good ideas. There's going to be things that kind of click with everyone to say, hey, you know what, this was some good ideas. Here's some takeaways. We need to be thinking about this. Even though everyone is tired at this point in time, it's really thinking about what can we take out of this while it's fresh in our minds to do the best we can to ensure that we are perhaps more prepared the next time around. So, again, I thank you all for joining today. Thank you for all the presenters that are going to be here. Thank you for the people that have helped put this on today. Again, just my appreciation and Godspeed to you and everyone else.
Thank you. It's a little anticlimactic, right, with the lack of applause, but technology hasn't gotten that so far yet.
Thank you. Thanks, Jessica.